I like it.
Say, can you see the only light? What so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleam. Eyes, arrow. All the lights we watched were set. The bombs bursting in air gave proof through the night that a flag was there. Oh, they died stopping the land of the free and the home of the brave.
All right, we've got some great guests in attendance here today, along with the Spokane Concealed Carry group. Matthew Shea is out here. He's a, he's a Washington State representative out of the 4th District. I think Bob McCaslin, is he here yet? We have Bob McCaslin confirmed as a speaker here today, so hopefully he shows up. He's also a state representative out of the 4th District. We've got Ken Adkins, who's the head of the Spokane District Initiative 1621. I encourage you guys to take a good look at that and put your John Hancock on it. Signing it doesn't pass any laws or anything. It just simply allows a discussion to be had on changes that can be made, and I think that's going to play a huge role in keeping our kids safe at school. We've got Randy Mace with the Lightfoot Militia out here today. He's going to be speaking. We've got Robert Smith, who's the owner instructor at Safe LLC. He's also the director for the Ferdinand and Rod Gun Club. And lastly, we have Cecily Wright, who's the co-founder of the Northwest Grassroots out here with us today. And we'll be finishing the speaking portion off with a song performed by Taylor and Carson. The song is going to be I Am Proud to Be an American. I've prepared some talking points that I'd like to touch on before I hand the mic over, or the blowhorn, whatever you want to call this thing. I don't really consider this a speech because I'm not good at speeches, but I just want to bring up some points. So here we go. I am not some right-wing extremist, as some members of our community would have you think. I am a husband, I am a father, I am a grandson, a son, a brother, and a hard-working, tax-paying, functional member of our Spokane community. I love this city. I was born here, raised here, and I'll likely live out the rest of my life here. All 3 of my children attend local elementary schools, and I want to ensure for them a safe, and comfortable learning environment. I think the Initiative 1621 is part of the equation to make that possible. I am not a dangerous, quote-unquote dangerous person because I choose to equip myself with a life-saving tool. As a matter of fact, I'm quite the opposite. I have been vetted through the Spokane Sheriff's Office. I have had a background check. I am fingerprinted and put in the system. I am a law-abiding citizen. I choose to carry because I don't get a say in when disaster strikes. I don't get to choose that moment. But I can prepare for it when it does. And let it be known that if disaster strikes you when I'm around, your chance of survival goes up. As a responsible firearm owner, I undergo many hours of studying, researching, and training, getting certifications to help further my safety and the safety of my community. I believe a responsibly armed society is a much more polite society. However, this belief does not fall among all Spokanites. As a matter of fact, for some, believe we are gathered here today to invoke fear. But that cannot be further from the truth. Could it? We want to educate our community on firearms and bring forth a meaningful conversation on how we can improve the safety of not only our community but our children while they're at school. We share many common goals with the opposition, but the points of discussion are all pointed in the wrong direction. We should not be willing to give up our rights for a false sense of security through new legislation. We gather here today in full support of the Second Amendment and all our God-given rights. The Constitution is the foundation on which this country was built. I'm a carpenter by profession, so I speak from experience when I say, if you start chipping away at the foundation of a building, you are jeopardizing the integrity of that structure and putting it at risk of collapsing. I hope this helps put into perspective how very important our Constitution is. Not to any specific political party, but to everyone, everywhere across this great nation. If that does not help shed some light on the topic, then think of it this way. The Constitution is a pact between the people of this great nation and the government officials we've elected. If that pact is broken by those government officials, the people are no longer obligated to recognize the government as they are acting unconstitutionally. This great nation was not fought for and built around a government. This great nation was built around the people, with the people holding the majority of the power. If the government thinks that it can overstep its freedom-loving constituents whom they are supposed to represent, then they are dead wrong. We need the government for some things, sure, but we do not need a radically intrusive government willing to unconstitutionally restrict our God-given rights. We will not sit idly by and watch our Constitution get further trampled on by those who are in office and who have pledged an oath to uphold our Constitution. Enough is enough. The First and the Second Amendments are purposefully put in the forefront of the Bill of Rights. The Second Amendment, contrary to some people's belief, is not for hunting or for sport. The amendment was written into our Constitution by our Christian, freedom-loving forefathers for the sole purpose of securing our nation's ability to resist tyranny, be it foreign or domestic. In order to have that ability to resist tyranny, we must secure our right to have access to modern arms, in which any modern form of tyranny will be equipped. Right now, everyone is placing the blame on a tool. London is placing blame on knives. Americans are placing the blame on the AR-15, which they are calling a full semi-automatic firearm. You see, it's easier to place the blame on an inanimate object than it is to take a hard look at what's going on within our society. We are the problem. And to fix that, we must start by making changes within the home. My home, your home, everybody's home. We must teach our children how precious life is. Teach them to have good principles and instill in them a good moral compass. In my honest opinion, I feel placing the blame on a tool to be nothing more than the blame game. So let's play that through real quick. Let's say, for example, we remove these tools from the equation by banning them or whatever you would like to do. Isn't it logical to think that another tool is going to rise up to take the blame? At which point we will then remove it from the equation, and the process would repeat itself until only hands and feet are left to blame. Hands and feet, ladies and gentlemen, are the cause of more deaths per year than the AR-15. The AR is a far more dangerous tool than hands and feet, though, isn't it? No. Everyone I know, no matter what side of the table they fall on, wants greater safety in our community and in our schools. The bickering and the virtue signaling must stop, and solutions must be brought forth. It is imperative that one thing remain apparent throughout this whole process. And that one thing is upholding the Constitution of the United States of America. I'd like to know why politicians cling to their armed guards for safety. Yet at the very same time, they allow our schools to be protected by signs that read gun-free zone. How much sense does that make? Every aspect of society that has been deemed important, such as banks and courthouses, the White House, they all allow people carrying firearms for protection. Yet we prohibit the same implication for other important aspects such as our schools and our concerts or large events. Gun-free zones were implemented to deter gun crimes from happening within those zones. Unfortunately, they have had the exact opposite effect and are now intended targets for those who wish to pursue acts of great violence. Why has nobody taken a hard look at this and noticed that 98% of mass murders happen in gun-free zones? I myself have experienced firsthand what it's like to lose a loved one through the use of a firearm. Yet I do not place the blame on a tool, because I know that an inanimate object cannot and did not act on its own. So as I wrap this up, I'd like to give thanks to the 1.3 million veterans who gave their lives protecting our rights. Let's reassure their families that they did not lay down their lives for a broken and divided nation, but a nation that comes together in full support of the Constitution. I'd also like to thank everyone who's a part of the Spokane Concealed Carry group, particularly those who donated to make this event possible. I'd like to thank everybody who's in attendance here today. I'd like to thank the City of Spokane Park Operations Center, as well as the Spokane Police Department for showing their support here today. As a personal request for anybody out there watching this, I would ask everyone who is blaming the tool right now to ask yourself, why am I blaming the tool? Mike Fagan is going to take over. He's got some other business to attend to, so he's going to take over here real quick and share his thoughts with us.
Hey, Mike. What a way to go ahead and get things started, man. I tell you, how about another hand for Tad? Yes. Spokane Concealed Carry, thank you very much for hosting this, for sure. Now, folks, our founders displayed some great insight when they came up with the Second Amendment. Why? It is because they knew tyranny. And they wanted to ensure that Americans had a means to safeguard against a tyrannical government's oppression into the future. Let me give you a couple of examples of what that tyranny has looked like. In 1946, take a look at Athens, Tennessee. 1992, Ruby Ridge, Idaho. 1993, Waco, Texas. 2014, the Bundy family. And 2016, Lavoy Vinicum. It is for these examples that the founders made the Second Amendment what I call an absolute amendment. Why? It's because it shall not be infringed. The Second Amendment shall not be infringed. Say it with me. The Second Amendment shall not be infringed. Now, as you know, we patriots, we red-blooded Americans are not out of the woods by any means on the Second Amendment, especially in today's political environment. But there is something that you can do to help while helping yourselves. Let me encourage you in the strongest possible way. We need to get people to the polls to vote and participate in our government. The onus is on each and every one of you. Friends, family members, congregation members, co-workers. We need to be talking to these people, informing them, educating them, and getting them to participate. Everybody have a great day out there. Once again, the Second Amendment. Yeah, buddy. Everybody have a great day.
Matthew Shea.
Can you hear me way over here?
This side? Yeah, this side. Matthew Shea is going to come up and he's going to fire away. Get us all riled up. Give Matthew Shea a hand.
Whatever you like. All right. There it goes. We made.
All right, can everybody hear me? Yeah. All right. How many veterans we got out there today? Raise your hand. Let's give them a round of applause. There's a lot of veterans out there. And I'm going to tell you something. We didn't go overseas. We didn't lose our friends in combat to come back home and be made criminals because we want to bear arms. Now, I'm going to start off by saying it's great to be with all you gun-toting, Bible-thumping, Constitution-carrying, freedom-loving Americans. We're at a crossroads in the country, aren't we, today? We really are. I mean, we're looking around, we're seeing all the things that are happening, we're watching some real ignorant statements being said throughout our country. But you know something? Because all of us are here today, they will never succeed at disarming Americans. Woo! Never. Now, I don't want to mince words, and y'all know me, I don't mince words, ever. A good friend of mine, Representative Dave Taylor, asked one of our Democrat friends, what does AR stand for? Thank you. It's not assault rifle. That was their answer, right? And one of those automatic killer 47s, right? Gracious, really. The role of government, I think we need to get back to that. The role of government is to protect our God-given unalienable rights, not take them away. And I'm going to have some pretty harsh words for the socialists who want to disarm us, okay? Pretty harsh words. If you want to take away our AR-15, you are in rebellion to the Constitution of the United States of America and Washington State. And the idea that an AR-15 15, or that the Second Amendment to Article 1, Section 24 of the state constitution was limited to muskets is about as asinine as the free speech clause being limited to quill pens, ink bottles, and horse and riders carrying letters places. But make no mistake about it, they're not attacking just the Second Amendment, they're attacking the First Amendment as well. In California, a state senator introduced a bill that would require fact checkers, of course approved by the state, fact checkers to approve news stories before they're published. Can you say Pravda? I mean, my goodness gracious. And the fact of the matter is, we're using the First Amendment right now, gathering together today, peaceably assembling, to protect all the other amendments. But let it be very clear that if you try to take that away from us, we have the Second Amendment to make sure all the other amendments are protected as well. I also want to say something too about gun control and logic. Okay, I know those two don't usually get mentioned in the same sentence. But look it, hammers are used to kill people. Baseball bats are used to kill people. In fact, blunt objects are used to kill more people per year than firearms times 10, according to some of the things that I've seen. And you know what? We don't see a ban on a Louisville slugger. We don't see them trying to ban cars on the road. We don't see them trying to make our knives registered. Yeah, just wait. Yeah, really. And look, guns stop. Nobody ever talks about this. Depending on who you talk to, guns stop 5 to 10 times more crimes than they're ever used to commit. Why don't we admit that guns are actually saving lives out there and are actually stopping crimes and thieves from breaking into our property? Now, I could stand here today, I could say unequivocally, guns saved my father's life in war. I could say that guns saved my cousin's life. I could say that guns saved a friend of mine's life and saved her from being raped. I could say that guns saved my life from a crazy road rager. I could say that. Why don't we unashamedly say that everywhere we go? Because it's not just about hunting. But it's about protecting individual lives, and most importantly, we have the right to bear arms for the exact moment when tyrants say we're going to take them from you. It's about people control, isn't it? It's not about gun control. And I don't know, I went to school and I learned English. I believe that shall not be infringed, shall not be impaired, mean what they say, don't you? So if that's the case, it doesn't matter what a government bureaucrat or a socialist or a journalist says. We don't get our rights from man, we get our rights from God, and no one can take them away. I want to share a story of a friend of mine named Don Amon. He was down in Las Vegas when that shooting started happening, and that man saved over a dozen lives. A police officer who was shot through the neck, he saved his life as well. And he came and testified in Olympia, and he said, so let me get this straight. You want me to survive Las Vegas and come back home here to Washington State to be made a criminal because you want to ban bump stocks? Right. Wow. Imagine that. Imagine that. Criminals don't obey the law. How many laws do they break before they go into a gun-free zone and shoot it up? The only thing that stops a bad guy with a gun is a good guy with a gun. Now I want to read a quote from Eric Fromm He was a German psychologist who wrote extensively about the fear of freedom. That's what the gun controllers have. They have a fear of freedom. Here's what he said. He found that the capacity to doubt and criticize and disobey may be all that stands between mankind, the future of mankind, and the end of civilization. So what does that mean to us? Just like my Irish ancestors, when the British brought the Irish penal laws and said, you can't own a sword, they exercised something called Irish democracy. Okay? You have that law, that's really nice and great, but I'm not going to comply with it. You have that law that says you're going to take away my AR-15, I'm not going to comply with it. And my Irish ancestors had to endure horrible hardship when they were disarmed. And understand something, that I follow the real Patrick Henry, not the blog. And the people that say that rallies are dumb, it's dumb to come out here, this is what Patrick Henry said. We are apt to shut our eyes against the painful truth and listen to the song of that siren till she transforms us into beasts. Is this the part of wise men engaged in a great and arduous struggle for liberty? I believe that. That's why we're here today. I believe it. And I believe that fighting tyrants isn't something that we talk about. It's our duty as Americans.
Yes, sir.
Yes. It's our duty as Americans. So I want to end with this. I want to end with the story of Samuel Whitmore. Who is Samuel Whitmore? Well, he was a 78-year-old farmer. In 1738, he was sued for defamation because he was using the First Amendment, but he didn't call it that back then. It was just free speech from God to fight against what he was seeing as tyranny. Then in 1766, he joined the Committee for Correspondence at Cambridge. And then in 1776, on April 19th, when the British retreated through Metatomi, Samuel Whitmore, a 78-year-old farmer, decided he was going to do his part. And he sat on the side of a road and single-handedly ambushed the British troops retreating. Okay? And he took a bunch of them down. And you know what happened after that? He was shot 6 times in the face, he was clubbed, he was bayoneted, and he was left for dead. And that hardcore, stubborn American lived until he was 96 years old. Are you a Samuel Whitmore? Yeah. So I want to leave you with this today. It's not just about being vocal. It's not just about recognizing that nobody can take away our rights unless we allow them to. It's not just about standing out in the wind today. It's about getting together. It's about organizing. But it's about exercising the right to bear arms every single day. Go get trained. Go to the range. Get together with your fellow citizens, your fellow Washingtonians. And you know what's going to happen? We are the majority, and the majority is going to succeed, and they will never, ever, ever, ever come to take away our guns because they're not going to have the political will to do so. And I believe that if we educate the next generation, they'll believe it as well, and they'll understand the truth behind it, that big government never knows best, never will, and that it is standing between, right now, the thing standing between chaos, freedom, is the right to bear arms. And I'm just proud to be out here with all you patriots today. God bless you guys. Keep up the fight, all right?
All right,
Up next, we're going to have Ken Adkins. He's going to share with us the Initiative 1621 and why we should all be getting behind it.
Thank you. Thank you all for coming out. That turnout is fantastic. This is great. Also, thank you for everybody who's already signed the initiative. We've had incredible signatures today. So, going to tell you a little bit about what Initiative 1621 is all about, what it does and what it doesn't do. There's some myths about what it is going to do. Initiative 1621 gives faculty of both public and private schools the option to, if they have a concealed pistol license, to carry their concealed weapon while they're on school grounds. Is that better at all? Maybe I gotta pick this thing up. Okay, can you hear me now? Is that better? Okay. I'll put that back down and just eat this thing. Okay, so we don't believe in this country that our Second Amendment rights end at some arbitrary line in a school parking lot. We believe that our faculty at our schools should be able to defend themselves even while they're in the classroom or on other areas of school grounds. Now, if a faculty member decides that they want to carry concealed on school grounds, should this initiative pass in November, they would be required to notify senior administration of the school, which is usually a principal, that they are going to carry. Now, don't get me wrong. This is not a request by them to ask if they can. This is them telling the administration that they will be carrying. Now, at that point, the board of directors of each school district will be responsible for setting down the minimum requirements of training for these members to be able to carry on school grounds. Now, why each school district set their own requirements? Because we don't want the state setting down some arbitrary requirement that all school districts have to follow, because Spokane School District might need a different requirement than Davenport or Seattle or Dayton. Okay, so the school district board of directors is who would set down that minimum training requirement. Another aspect of this initiative would be that parents, when they're at a school on legitimate school business, say they've got a parent-teacher conference or they're going to a ball game, they would be allowed to concealed carry while they are at that school. Again, we don't believe that our Second Amendment right ends at some arbitrary line and in a parking lot.
Yes.
Is this on? Can you hear me okay?
No.
Is this better or worse?
Works better.
Well, anything? Okay, I'm going back to the other one. I can hear myself really good there.
We're trying.
Okay, so here's one of the myths that I'm going to dispel right now, okay? This initiative does not allow for Joe citizen that does not have legitimate business at a school to concealed carry by just showing up at a school and walking around and providing private security, okay? First of all, somebody just showing up at a school and walking around to provide personal security is kind of creepy, you know? Second of all, people are going to wonder, why is this person even here? And they're probably going to call the cops, and that's going to create a big problem, okay? So this does not allow for just anybody to show up at a school that has a concealed pistol license and provide private security.
What if it's my granddaughter?
If you're there on
legitimate school business, you know, if you're there to see a play or she's, you know, singing in choir or something, absolutely. Doesn't matter your relationship. One of the other primary aspects of this initiative is it would end the sign that you see at every school that says gun-free zone. When you walk into a school and you see the gun-free zone sign, that's a big red flag, or a big flag for every person out there that wants to do something bad. It says, this is a soft target. We don't want our schools to be soft targets. We want our schools to be hard targets. We want the cowards that are going to go in and shoot up a school to think before they walk in there. We want every last one of them to know that in Washington State, there may be somebody in there that's got a gun, and they're going to shoot back, and they're going to defend their students. So, gun-free zone signs, gone, okay? So, to wrap everything up, I'm over here at the red table. I've got the initiatives, the petitions to sign. Even if you're on the fence about it, come sign the petition, okay? Get it on the ballot. Let's get the conversation started. We gotta start getting this out and getting people talking about it. Thank you very much for your time.
Next up, we're going to have Randy Mace with the Lightfoot Militia. Give us some of his mind, just a piece of his mind.
Doesn't take heavy stuff. Okay, I'm afraid I'll pull you down.
All right, hello everybody. Thanks for coming out today.
closer.
Is that better? Yeah. Helps talk on the right side of it there. Okay, how many teachers do we have out here? I got one big question. Would you like to be a dead hero or a live hero? Our teachers are the #1 first line of defense for our children. The first person that an assailant's going to run into is the teacher. How many times have we seen that the teacher threw his body in front of the children to take the hits? And now, then we have a dead hero. The principal at Sandy Hook, she came out of her office and she confronted the assailant and ended up rushing the assailant. In that period of time, she had lots of time to draw a weapon and take the assailant out. I would rather have live heroes than dead heroes. So definitely run over to the table and get your signatures on get that ballot, or get that initiative on the ballot.
Yeah.
Okay, also, my thanks to all the veterans out here also. I'm a Marine of 22 years. Okay, I'm also up here to stand up for the Washington State militias. I'm speaking on behalf of the 63rd, the 65th, with Ken Barker, the APIII percenters, We have Idaho, Chad, he's out here somewhere. We're here to make sure that all the people in our community are safe.
Yeah.
We all take an oath when we join the militia, and it's the same oath that our active duty military take. And that's to defend our Constitution, Washington State Constitution, and protect our citizens and our communities. What our citizens don't realize is, come around holidays, Christmas, and things of that nature, we're actually out there in what we call our urban camouflage, which is our civis, and we patrol the malls for you, and we carry. We're always armed when we're out there, and we have the blessing of the sheriff. We have meetings with the sheriff on a regular basis, and we keep in touch. Our goal out here today is to get the word out that the word militia is not a bad word. The word militia is a good word. How many individuals out here are militia members right now? Actually, everybody's hand should be going up. Now, the biggest thing we got to do is educate our sheriffs and our citizens about the Second Amendment. The Second Amendment is about militia. It's a twofold article, as outlined by Justice Scalia on one of his rulings in 2008. The first part deals with being militia and all able-bodied citizens. It's not limited to just 18 to 45 anymore. The law's been changed. It's everybody. It's not just one-sided gender. Everybody. Ages, as long as you can breathe, chew gum, and walk at the same time, you're able-bodied. Okay, part of the education is for us to dig into the session laws. I have a son who's a historian researcher. He has gone in, he has got every session law that Washington State has ever put out. He's dug through all of them, and he's created a booklet called the Military Code. In this booklet is all the session laws that deal with militia, organized and unorganized. And I have about 15 of these booklets if anybody'd like to get them afterwards. He was asking for about a $10 donation just to help him on his research and pay for some of the materials and digging this up. He's got about 6 months of hard research so far, and all the laws back us up to do what we're doing in open carry and concealed carry. How many of you went down to the courthouse recently and bought your permit to exercise your First Amendment right? Your First Amendment right. How many purchased a permit? How many had to go down and purchase a permit to carry your weapon? Why is it that the Second Amendment, we have to purchase our right? And we got to start standing up and making our voices heard. We've been called the silent majority. Not anymore. We got to get these crowds tripled in size, and we got to get out there and get the advertisements out for all of these events that go on. The only way is to get people educated. You heard all the horns honking after we went out and lined up along the street. We have the support out there. We just get the advertisement to them and start getting them educated on what the laws and stuff are. Now, the biggest thing is get these laws in our hands, which we now have. I have in my hand right here, United States versus Miller. I would strongly advise everybody to look it up on Cornell University, Law University. The justice that gave the court opinion, he made it very clear, implied very heavily that the weapons that we have out here, our ARs, our semi-automatics, our pistols, our large capacity magazines, they are required. They're not just a right to have, they are required by law to have. Why? Because the citizens are the militia.
Yes, sir.
You cannot do your militia duties if you do not have military style. I'll say style because they are not actually military weapons. They are style, cosmetic. But we are required to have that quality of weapon in our hands. And Justice, I forgot what his name was on that one, but it was 1939, and he made it very clear that these weapons are, the way he put it, the weapons of the time. So, what was it, 39? Everybody rated. What it's in 2018, everybody rates. Now there's another ruling by Justice Scalia in 2008, where he made it very clear that none of these states and counties and cities and towns can make a law to ban these weapons. There's also a de facto, if I got that word right, Mark, are you around here? De facto law, saying if it was legal yesterday, you can't sit there and turn around and make people criminal the next day.
Yes, sir.
This is all part of getting educated on what the laws are so that we can argue and fight intelligently against the far left. We also have to be able to take this to our state capitals, our town, city councils, our county commissioners, and make it clear that we're not going to allow all these restrictions and the purchasing of our rights. Our rights are not for sale. A little thing of interest for everybody. 2 days ago, did everybody see the article about Illinois? We had one county out there stood up, county commissioners voted to make their county a sanctuary county pro-Second Amendment. By the end of the day, 2 more counties jumped on board in Illinois. I'm going to make it my goal starting this week, and I'm going to my county commissioners in Lincoln County, and I'm going to sit there and demand that they make the same kind of statement and get the rest of the counties on the east side, at least, of Washington, to stand up and make sanctuary areas for our Second Amendment rights. Okay, I think that's probably about it for my long-winded area there. But anybody interested in becoming a militia member, please come up and talk to one of us and we'll put you in the right direction.
What's the dog looks like? This side. Hold on. No. You go this side, guys. Thanks.
All right, I have a tendency to talk kind of loud anyway. Can everybody hear this okay? Thank you. I want to thank everybody for coming out, and also everybody like Tad and Chris and all that put this whole thing on. That's a lot of work to do that. I'd like to ask everybody out here, how many of you are firearms instructors? Okay, how many of you share your firearm safety or other skills with your family, with your neighbors, with your friends? Everybody here is a firearms instructor. You don't have to be a professional one. I have done it professionally for over 30-some years on my day off from the fire department. And I'm happy to have trained over 10,000 people with a lot of actual saves of people who never actually had to fire a shot. But everyone reported back to us via police report that had they not been armed and known how to deal with the situation, they're confident they would have been either seriously injured or killed. So it's not just about shooting other people. The point of the exercise is not to kill the other guy. The point of the exercise is not to get killed. That's why we all bear arms. We own the moral high ground on this topic, as other speakers have alluded to. We're finally standing on it because I think we're tired of the beatdown that everybody's getting for exercising fundamental civil rights. Thank you. The comments you're going to hear were originally written as an op-ed in the Spokesman Review a couple Fridays ago. So it was mainly geared for people who don't have much knowledge of firearms, not folks like you. I'm talking about the crowd who's often wrong but never uncertain that we all see. Most of you, everybody here knows more about firearms than that crowd. So bear with me on my opening part about it. It was directed at folks like that. We need to do something about school shootings. We need gun control. What to do? I'm a 30-year-plus civilian and law enforcement trainer who also does expert witness testimony in court cases. I've got extensive knowledge and background regarding firearms usage. That's why they hire me. I say this because we all may have an opinion on the subject. I'm offering, via the paper in this instance, not so much here, an informed opinion for those that we often see writing in and don't understand the concept. I've also been a professional firefighter and paramedic here in Spokane for 38 years. As a trainer in first aid and CPR, I found many parallels in training in those first aid skills and the first aid skills regarding firearms. Teaching citizen CPR, first aid, fire extinguishers, usage, etc. is an accepted norm. Why is that? Response times. It takes time for us to get to the scene of an emergency. We know that the survivability of patients and victims goes up and it's dramatically increased when people on the scene already are doing something. That wonderful phrase, they're doing something. This fact is irrefutable. That's why we teach CPR. That's why we teach first aid.
Thank you, sir. Too kind.
Okay. Remember, when seconds count, we firefighters, medics, and cops are minutes away. If we teach the use of a gun as analogous to a first aid kit or fire extinguisher, we then see why a citizen can hold the line or do something until we get there. Whether it's a medical emergency or you face an immediate threat, the principle is the same. You are on your own until we get there, okay? You have to rely on yourself to protect you and yours until we get on scene. This is life or death. This cannot be delegated to the cop or the fireman or the medic. You're on your own. You have seconds to act decisively. There are not enough cops or medics around to protect us all the time. Security measures are multifaceted. A gun may play a role in security training, and that decision should be left up to the potential victim, not a bureaucrat who has no knowledge of the subject, as we commonly see. This is America, and we make choices, especially when it comes to decisions related to life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness. If we lose life, the rest is moot, no matter what someone else's good intentions. We've all heard the phrase, the road to hell is paved in good intentions. Cops want to stop bad guys, of course, but most responses are after the fact, as I've said. There are bad people out there. We have cops because use of force by them against violent actors is what they train for and what we pay them for.
Yes, sir.
That's why it's called a police force, not fluffy police. Okay? As we saw in the recent school event down in Parkland, however, police performance doesn't always work out as intended. Or, more commonly, as is sold to the general public. They make you think we can be everywhere at once. You are your first line of defense.
Yes, sir.
That is just the nature of the beast. We have opened the Pandora's box
If you'll bear with me with the wind.
We've opened a Pandora's box when it comes to schools and other public venues with the so-called gun-free zones. This is a magnet for mentally ill people with violent thoughts. Such criminals who have lived through their attacks have told us as much, that they picked gun-free zones because they would face no opposition. That was a choice over places that had obvious security, so it's a pretty simple concept. There was a bank robber in the 1930s named Willie Sutton. When the FBI caught up with him, they asked him, "Willie, why are you robbing banks?" He said, "'Cause that's where the money is." He also said later, it made common sense. All these gun-free zones defy common sense. This concept is relatively new in America. It's time to quit this failed social experiment that's costing kids, teachers, and other citizens their lives, and allow them that are willing and capable to be armed discreetly so they can do something to deter an attack. This has already been proven to work in many instances in American churches, schools, and goes unreported by the general media as a rule. It is a person's life at risk and rightfully their choice in how to protect it and others under their mantle of protection. The right to keep and bear arms precedes the U.S. Constitution and its Bill of Rights. That right is not granted by or dependent upon those documents. That right is reaffirmed in those documents as a natural God-given right. Millions of citizens already carrying guns judiciously now, with lives saved, and it's time to stop infringing upon their fundamental rights with the tragic and predictable consequences of that infringement. Unless we do away with the emotional histrionics and rationally discuss genuine security measures, including the role of firearms, we will see more security failures and loss of innocent life. On a final note, that's pretty much what I came largely prepared to say, but one of my associates out here, Vitaly, thank you, reminded me, I mentioned to Matt Shea, most of you are aware you can't go down to places like the arena and the convention center and be armed anymore. Well, for the last probably year and a half or so, a group has been working on taking the PFD, the Public Facilities District, to task on that. So I'll be primarily the spokesman and the complainant in the case, backed by some folks that wish to remain anonymous and some that don't. We formed an organization. We're going to get together with Tad and the group here and see if we can't get more of that spread out, called the National Firearms Education Foundation. It's a 501c nonprofit that basically you can make contributions to for things like this right off on your taxes. There's no middleman type thing in. If somebody gives $100 to go to that cause, there's no, oh, I got to take 20%. The whole $100 goes to that cause. As Ozzy Knezovich, our sheriff, has said after his shameful turn away from the arena, you know, the fact they turned cops away is amazing. It's like me going down, they call me in for a call as a paramedic. I show up with a drug box and they go, whoa, drug-free zone, just like Gun Freak. You guys can't come in. What idiocy. Yeah. You don't let a uniformed cop come in there? Are you out of your minds? Well, I guess yes, they are. Yeah. So we formed the NFEF. You'll hear more about it. We're going to take them to task. Just as Ozzy has publicly said, they are not lawfully doing what they're supposed to do. They are in violation of RCW when they turn away police officers and CPL holders. Concealed pistol license holders are stated clearly in the RCW, and we plan to take them to task over it. We already have legal counsel, etc. So when you hear about that, support us, because we're going to change it. If they don't like that law, they can go change the law in Olympia. But in the meantime, they're the ones violating the law. You'll hear more about us on that. Thank you all for coming out today.
Mash this and talk about that. Okay. You got it.
Okay, am I holding this right? Can you hear me? Yeah. Great. Hey, my name's Cecily Wright, and my husband and I have an organization called Northwest Grassroots. We meet monthly. We've been doing that for about 8-9 years now, and it's a conservative group, but it's really based on education. And I was hoping we'd have some really rousing speaker following me, because mine's just not quite as rip-roaring as everybody's else, because what I want to talk about is the history of gun regulation. But the reason I want to talk about the history of gun regulation is perhaps to clear your mind as to who to vote for when you come to trying to figure out what in the world am I supposed to be doing. I don't know if you're all aware of it, but only about 40% of our registered voters vote. That's shameful, and I hope none of you are standing out there. I hope all of you do vote. So, we all know that our first 10 amendments were ratified in 1791. And I think you can all repeat the Second Amendment. It's one of the shortest. So repeat it with me. A well-regulated militia being necessary to the security of a free state, the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. So that lasted without any attempts trying to change it for about 46 years. And then in 1937, Georgia decided that it'd be a good idea to ban handguns. And immediately the Supreme Court shot that down. Good job. So 90 years passed, and they did pass a federal law that outlawed the mailing of concealed weapons. So that, that wasn't too much of an infringement. But it took 143 years after 1791 for gun control to begin in earnest. And FDR, Franklin Delano Roosevelt, is known as the father of gun control. New Deal for crime is what he had. And that imposed tax on the manufacture and sale of machine guns and sawed-off shotguns, and sales to be recorded in a national registry. First time we've had this national registry type of thing come up. 4 years later, still FDR, we did the National Firearms Act, licensing of interstate gun dealers, and no sales to those under indictment or convicted of violent crimes. So everything remained pretty quiet until 1968. So in 1968, who was the president? LBJ, Lyndon Baines Johnson. And he did the Crime and Safe Street Act and Gun Control Act. What that did was it prohibited sales of guns to convicted felons, drug users, and mentally ill, raised the age to purchase a handgun to the age of 21, expanded gun dealer licensing requirements, and required more detailed record keeping. Then, we had some good news. 1986. Who was president in 86? Reagan. Absolutely. And he passed the Firearm Owners Protection Act. Limited ATF inspection of gun dealers to not more than once a year. Gun dealers could have been inspected every month if the ATF didn't like them, so it at least restricted them from being hassled. It forbade the government from creating a national gun registry. Good job. It did ban civilian ownership of machine guns, but only those manufactured after May of 1986. So it was a pretty good protection act. So then we're going to fast forward to 1993. Who was president? Clinton. And we ended up with the Brady Bill, which mandated background checks. It was the birth of the NICS system, the NICS system. But the good thing was there was still no national registry, so the background check information could not be preserved into a national registry. Then in 1994, the Violent Crime Control and Law Enforcement Act happened, which was a 10-year ban on the manufacture of semi-automatic assault weapons and large capacity magazines, the same ones they're after today, did not apply to guns that were already in legal possession. So, you're going, whoa, there's a little bit of a trend here, don't you see? As to what administration is in power when these national regulations are imposed. We ended up with a victory, an amendment to a spending bill, one of those little guys they attach, and we all go, how could they do that? And it prohibited law enforcement from publicly releasing the data showing where criminals bought their guns, because those gun dealers would be targeted if some Looney Tune bought their gun from them and then they committed crimes, even though they had followed the laws. So that protected them. Then in 2004, the sunset provision of the 1994 assault weapon ban expired, and it was not renewed by Congress despite repeated efforts to renew it. Then in 2005, Bush signed the Protection of Lawful Commerce in Arms Act, and that granted gun manufacturers immunity from civil lawsuits committed with firearms. So I hope you see that under Republican administrations, we're supporting guns, trying to hold back some of this stuff. Didn't go that way, the other way. Inslee, not our governor, I agree. So, in 2008, we again had a victory, and that was with the Heller Supreme Court decision striking down a local law banning handguns in the District of Columbia. That takes us up to 2012, 18 years after the Brady Bill required background checks. By then, 156 million background checks had been performed, and not quite 1 million gun sales had been rejected through those federal denials. 156 million, less than 1 million denied. So you can see, it's good that we didn't have 1 million out there, but how many of them really should have been denied, it's hard to say there. Gun regulation at the national level since then has mostly failed, but individual states are enacting tighter regulation. They're strengthening the assault weapons bans, they're limiting magazine capacities, and all that. So the reason I wanted to give you that history of gun regulation is just really for you to see who's on your side, who's not on your side. So what's happening in our state? Unfortunately, in Washington State, the Democrats hold the governorship and a majority in both the House and the Senate. This past session in Olympia, it was driven by the Democrats. So naturally, what took precedence? Taxes, global warming, pro-choice legislation, and guns. We were fortunate in that only 2 bad pieces of gun legislation passed. The one to ban the bump stocks, and one to keep firearms out of the hands of domestic abusers. That one is a slippery slope, because you know as well as I do in let's say a divorce case where people say things about each other that aren't quite true, you can really have some domestic violence problems there, or at least allegations, and you've ruined somebody's life forever. So I'm not sure that's just not a good one. But what I want you to know there are 7 more bills that they just didn't get to. They didn't get out of committee. It's about safe storage. I think you've all heard about that. I don't know how you get a gun in a hurry out of your, after you unlock it and all that good kind of stuff. Age 21 to buy a long gun, that type of thing. One bill that died in committee, and this one is so good it died in committee, but it's still there, and they're going to bring it up next year, is a law that would repeal our state law that preempts local government firearm regulation. Can you imagine, if that passed, what the city of Spokane would do as far as regulating guns? They'd have us like Deerfield, Michigan. They'd be saying you can't own a gun. We cannot allow that preemption repeal to pass. We all need to wake up. We have to vote. We need to get to know our legislators. You got to see Matt Shea today, 4th District. We have good legislators here on the east side of the state, but they need our help over on the west side. We could do this, guys, but we got to get to know them, we got to talk with them, and when we have legislation coming up, it's like I'm in the 4th District. I know how our legislators are going to vote. So you're thinking, well then why are you going to send them an email or a letter or a phone call about support this or don't support that? No, because the Democrats are loaded. They come in with shopping carts full of, this is what our constituents have said. And Matt will come in with 4 pieces of paper because we know what he's going to do. So you gotta let them know what you want them to do. It really, really, really helps. So all I can say is make noise, stay informed, your voices make a difference. And a big difference when you vote. And so when you vote, know what the people you're voting for, what their stand on gun control and gun regulation is. And you gotta mail in your ballots. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
There you go. Hear that.
I'm not sure where Tad is. Oh, here he is. I think you start your walk around the park now.
Okay, so for those of you guys who entered into the raffle for the holster, we're going to go ahead and pick a winner for that right now. All right, give us a couple of seconds to figure out how we're going to perform this song here with this blowhorn, because we got to amplify the song and then we got to amplify the voices. So give us 2 seconds here so we can get an awesome performance of Proud to Be an American. There we go.
There we go.
I've never sang through a blowhorn.
We're used to singing through mics, not blowhorns, so. Of course, if you guys know the song, feel free to join in.
You guys ready to rock and roll?
Yeah. Oh, okay.
That's a lot.
If tomorrow all the things were gone I'd worked for all my life, and I had to start again with just my children and my wife, I thank my lucky stars to be living here today, 'cause the flag still stands for freedom and they can't take that away. And I'm proud to be an American, where at least I know I'm free. And I won't forget the man who died, who gave that right to me. And I'll gladly stand up next to you and defend her still today. 'Cause there ain't no doubt I love this land. God bless the USA. Defend her still today, 'cause there ain't no doubt I love this land.
out here
If you're
today.
self-employed, you're probably keeping track of the miles you drive so you can write them off and...
We're going to go ahead and start making our way to the walkway there.